Here at BrainSpark, we don't just skim the surface, we dive deep into the science of how complex systems really work, from our own minds right up to the global economy. And today, we're going to tackle a huge one. What if the economy isn't some predictable machine, but something much more human and way more unpredictable?
You know the drill, right? We see these periods of just incredible growth, and then, boom, a sudden painful crash. We're always told the market is rational, that it'll just correct itself. But if that's really true, why does it feel like we're always on this wild roller coaster ride between total euphoria and sheer panic? What is actually driving these huge swings?
Well, let's get right into it. And this isn't just some wild idea. After the 2008 financial crisis, the European Central Bank, these are the top economists in the world, they made this stunning admission. They said they felt abandoned by conventional tools. Their own models had completely failed them. Now, that is a huge deal. It's basically a confession that the old, mechanical way of looking at the economy, it's broken. We need something new.
So our first big clue to solving this mystery is a powerful and often invisible force: feedback. You have to think of the economy less like a simple one-way street and more like a giant echo chamber, where every action and every belief just bounces around, amplifying everything and creating its own powerful momentum.
First things first, we've got to wrap our heads around something called positive feedback. Now, normally when we hear positive, we think good, right? But in systems thinking, it just means amplifying. Think about it like a speculative bubble. A few people get optimistic, they start buying an asset, the price goes up. Well, that rising price makes even more people optimistic, so they jump in and buy, pushing the price even higher. You see what's happening? Instead of correcting itself, that initial little bit of optimism gets magnified into a total frenzy.
So this difference is absolutely key. You've got negative feedback, which is the stabilizing stuff. It's like your home thermostat. When the room gets too hot, it kicks on to cool things back down. It dampens change. But positive feedback, well, that's the total opposite. It's like when a microphone gets too close to a speaker and you get that ear-splitting screech. A tiny sound gets amplified like crazy. It's completely destabilizing.
And this is pretty much how we're taught to think about the economy, right? We picture this perfectly stable system. You know, if there's a little shock, a little push here or there, the system just naturally corrects itself and goes right back to balance. That's the world of negative feedback. But what happens when the main force isn't this nice, gentle self-correction? What if it's self-amplification?
Okay, that brings us to our second big clue, and this is where it gets really, really human. Because this instability, it's not just some abstract feature of the system. Nope, it's driven by us. The market isn't one single, rational superbrain. It's a messy, chaotic crowd of actual people, and we all use different strategies to figure out what to do next.
And this, right here, is a total shift in how you have to look at things. Forget thinking of the economy as some kind of perfect, logical calculator. We have to start seeing it for what it is, a reflection of our collective psychology. A place where all that messy human stuff, fear, greed, following the crowd, it isn't just background noise. It's the engine driving the whole thing.
So, that same research from the European Central Bank points to two main types of thinkers in this crowd. On one side, you've got the fundamentalists. These are the people who believe every asset has a true fundamental value. If the price gets too high or too low, they bet it'll eventually come back. They're our stabilizing force. But then you have the trend followers. These guys, they couldn't care less about fundamental value. They just bet that whatever the price is doing right now, it's going to keep doing it. They are the ones who amplify everything.
Okay, and here's where it all gets so incredibly volatile. See, people aren't married to one strategy. We're not. We switch to whatever seems to be making money right now. So imagine a trend starts. The trend followers start making a killing. What happens? Other people see that and they switch over to become trend followers too. And that, of course, just makes the trend even stronger. It becomes this massive self-fulfilling prophecy that can send prices miles away from what anything is actually worth.
So let's recap. We have an amplifying feedback loop and a crowd of people ready to jump on any bandwagon that's moving. When you put those two things together, well, you've got the perfect recipe for a system that doesn't just bend, it breaks. Suddenly. Dramatically.
And that's the scary part. A system like this can take a lot of pressure. On the surface, everything can look fine, totally stable, for a really long time. It's just stretching and stretching until one tiny final push. And then it all just snaps. This diagram, honestly, this is the heart of the whole story. So imagine the economy is just cruising along on that top line. Everything looks great, but underneath, the pressure is building.
The system is moving closer and closer to that edge, to that point labeled F1. Now, from the outside, it might not look like much is happening, but that point, that is the tipping point. The system can't stretch any further, and there's no gentle slope down. It is a sudden, catastrophic fall all the way down to that bottom crisis state.
And this is so important. Getting back up isn't easy. You can't just undo that one little thing that pushed you over the edge. It doesn't work that way. You are now in a completely different reality, a different state, and climbing all the way back up takes a monumental effort.
To bring this home, let's make it personal. Think about a time you were in a minor disagreement with someone and it just suddenly blew up into this huge argument. What was the tipping point? You know how it goes, right? A small issue starts and it builds. Your defensiveness makes them more defensive. The whole situation is under pressure, but it's holding. And then someone says one last little thing, and that's it. That's the tipping point. Suddenly, you've fallen off the cliff into a massive fight. It's the exact same dynamic.
So look, this isn't just some dusty old economic theory. Not at all. It's a powerful lens we can use to see the pressures that are building in our world right now, especially when you think about massive new forces at play, like AI.
And it's not just us saying this. Top analysts at JP Morgan are using this exact same kind of language. They talk about a multi-dimensional polarization. What they're seeing is a system being pulled apart from all sides, creating these deep tensions and setting up brand new tipping points.
So what does that actually look like? Well, it's a stock market where a few AI companies shoot for the moon while everyone else is left behind. It's an economy where companies are pouring billions into technology, but nobody seems to be hiring. And it's a world where the gap between the haves and the have-nots is getting wider and wider. These are the fault lines. This is where the pressure is building today.
And AI is the perfect example of this kind of polarizing force, isn't it? On one hand, the promise is incredible. Huge leaps in productivity, whole new industries. But on the other hand, the risks are just as big. People losing their jobs, inequality getting worse. It literally creates a world of winners and losers, which just pours gasoline on the fire of all those feedback loops we were just talking about.
And listen, the stakes here are really high. That same JP Morgan analysis, they're putting the chance of a US and global recession in 2026 at 35%. Now, that's not a number they pulled out of a hat. That's a calculated risk based on their assessment of all this pressure building up inside this polarized, feedback-driven system.
So, all of this leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? The economy isn't some external force of nature that just happens to us. It's us. It's a reflection of our collective decisions and our fears. So if we can start to see these patterns, the feedback loops, the herd mentalities, can we actually do anything differently? Can we get a handle on our own human nature before we ourselves push the whole system over the next cliff?
Because getting a real handle on the science of how these complex systems work is the first step to navigating them a little more wisely. On this channel, we break down scientific ideas into clear, practical understanding. That's our goal every single time.